welcome to this session on new approaches to leadership in the era of AI with Keren, Tsuk and Eitan, Vesely. We've got a couple of great speakers here today to have a conversation with you about this incredible topic. I'm just going to introduce you to them so you'll know who you're listening to. So Keren is a keynote speaker, consultant, and thought leader in 21st century leadership, as well as the author of the book Mindfully Wise Leadership. She founded the consultancy Wisdom to Lead, which specializes in developing senior management teams and corporate leadership. Keren helps companies and teams reach their full potential using mindfulness techniques. And boy, do we need a lot of that these days. So it's going to be great to hear from Keren. And Eitan, he started his career as a mechanical engineer at Applied Materials. He worked there until he burned out. That's a great lesson for a lot of people. And then found his way to entrepreneurship. Eitan made his mark in the field of artificial intelligence with his first startup in 2014, which was sold to a multinational corporation in 2019, where he continued to work as a senior director of AI strategy and innovation. For years, he was troubled by how many people were unhappy at work and how many were forced to leave jobs either due to work-related stress or to get away from a manager. In 2022, he founded a people analytics startup called Water Cooler in collaboration with Simon Sinek, which uses AI to detect employee vulnerabilities and burnout risk. So important, so cool. The company applies recent advancements in explainable AI to ensure people are seen, heard, and appreciated, and at the correct frequency. So this is going to be a wonderful conversation. So I welcome you all. Please tune in and enjoy this fireside chat.
I'm Keren. I'm excited to lead this panel alongside Eitan Vesely. We will be discussing new approaches to leadership in the realm of AI. Our focus will be on exploring how we can effectively combine and utilize AI tools to enhance our leadership strategies, ensuring they benefit us rather than negatively impact us.
Good to be here, Keren, and definitely an interesting topic in how we can leverage AI and combine it with what we call the human or soft skills or emotional intelligence. How about before we jump into the details, give us some background on Wisdom to Lead?
Great. So we'll start by introducing Wisdom to Lead and Water Cooler before we delve into the details, and then we'll start the conversation. So Wisdom to Lead is a consulting company specializing in empowering conscious leadership through the transformative Wisdom to Lead methodology. We achieve this by offering a range of transformative leadership processes, including talks, courses, retreats, and team management accelerator programs. This initiative are designed to enhance self-awareness among leaders, boost emotional intelligence, and support better decision-making and better stress management, ultimately increasing productivity and engagement with the companies and the group. Eitan, can you talk about now, introduce the Water Cooler?
Yes, of course. And I have to say, Keren, for the audiences that you and I, we've met in one of these retreats, right? It was a few years ago. I participated in one of these great retreats, and here we are today.
And actually, Eitan, this is, you remember that you sat in front of the mountain, and this was an epiphany moment for you to create this company, remember?
Yeah, you're right. The decision was there. So in short about Water Cooler AI and what we do, out of my own personal opinion, managing a global team, annual surveys wasn't enough for me to know how are my people doing. So we started Water Cooler, which fuses a lot of different data sources from various different, usually HR and business related systems. And with AI, and I think it's worth mentioning that I've been an entrepreneur in the space of AI for a decade now. We provide customers with real-time visibility into the worst and potential risks. And this is in. Now, before we start the topic of today, some background information. It might be a bit technical. We'll try to do it very non-technical to the extent possible, but it's important to talk about AI and the capabilities we tie it back to leadership, and I will, in this explanation about two AI capabilities. One of them is predictive modeling or predictive analytics, and the other one is explainability. And in that power today to predict resignation based on about 200 different metrics, we can be very accurate in where in the company are the resignation risks. And here in this example, you see two individuals, person A, everything is anonymized. Both of them found with high probability. The question as leaders that we should all have is why, right? It's people away. And this is where explainable is in very handy. It's basically a concept taken from game theory, where we say no 6% flight risk. These are the reasons. The resignation, on the other hand. And the 86% is broken down to high amount of interrupted time off, amount of working paired with the company, high amount of working in evenings at night, and about it, 3.5 days a week work compensated. So suddenly the 86% here gets the burr of a potential burnout, making it much more addressable. Some action here. The 82%, as opposed to that, we can see someone very young of age, very limited interaction with managers, new to the company, and again, having manager once a month, like an onboarding, again, making it more addressable. Questions on that, Keren, or audience?
So first of all, I want to invite you, if you have a question, you can write on the chat or take after mute. So I refer to it and say, from my perspective, and we talked about it, explainable data, actually leaders and managers can understand how to maintain and retain their employees and touch the issue of talent management, because because you went so deep and different components, we can understand where on the life cycle the employee is suffering or struggling. And then the leader or the manager can give this and work on these specific things. Like in the onboarding, if we recruit an employee and we see that we don't give much attention at the beginning, we will be able to make it work differently if we will know and we can engage them in the beginning, because it's a really crucial place in the life cycle in order to maintain them later. So I think it's first a great understanding of how we can use the AI in order really to create engaging workplaces, because we can really delve into and understand more deeply where we need to put our attention. From your perspective, you're working with different companies, so do you see any similarities between different?
Yeah, I think these are two good questions. First, even in this very first slide, we're starting to see how I can enhance things and letting us know what's going on with our people. And you asked a very good question, Keren, about the differences between companies, and we'll dive into that too, because different companies means different cultures, means eventually different resignation drivers or retention drivers, and different reflection of those in the data. So interesting, and we'll dive into that.
Okay, and another point that I want to explore is the difference between the quantitative data and the qualitative data. How is the balance, and what do you do with the AI?
So let me get to that in the very next slide, because again, super important note, quantitative versus qualitative.
Okay.
Here we've seen two examples on, in this case, two individuals. So we normally don't look at individuals, we look at visions. And what we've seen working with one of our customers, not surprisingly, I have to say, that direct managing was found to be to voluntary resignation. And again, not surprising, because people join companies and leave managers, right?
Yeah.
We wanted to direct them, instruct them, help them get into answering the question of what would be the number of interactions. I remember myself as a first-time manager debating whether I should speak more to my people, dive more into their day-to-day, and micromanager, or should I just let them go, do what they need to do, and when they questions away, right? So where is this fine balance?
Mhm.
And looking at the data, and again, data means more quantity, less quality in this case. And working with one of our customers, the employees that you see here, the risk of people leaving. And how is this week that managers with their people? What does interact mean? It means that there is significant email correspondence. It means that there is a calendar. It means that they're participating in meetings. They see each other over a course of a week.
Using Eitan because there's various kinds of interactions, so all of them are blended in this scheme.
All of them are here in this scheme, fused together from, again, the caveat would be that this is the qualitative analysis.
Mhm.
And what we found here, Keren, is that they do not interact with their people over the course of a week. There are people that becomes at a high risk of leaving interaction.
Mhm.
And if managers in this company tend to be micromanaged, overmanage their people 3 to 7 times a week, they're putting them back at a high risk of leaving because of excessive manager engagement. But if you look here, specific area, which we call the safe zone or the optimal range, where managers who interact with their peers company, they very much minimize the risk of their people leaving.
And what comes to my mind is actually this is data specific to a culture of a specific company. I believe that in another company, the tendency will be 3 or 4 days, and this will be the safe zone. So how do you see it between companies? Is it always the 1 to 2 days, or you see the variation of between companies?
To the power of AI and how it can help leaders, because not only it's different on a company level, and you see here in the next slide that for company B, different company, different geography, different culture, different line of business, we saw the same exact pattern, except there's a different. Now, not only it's different between companies, it's different between high and low tenure, it's different between senior levels, it's different between of the business. Sales and marketing, very different than R&D, right? Or customer support. And this is where using artificial intelligence, again, can very much support leaders in customizing their leadership style and customizing, in this case, or adapting their practices to those of their people.
You know, I want to challenge you. I hear you speaking, and I say, okay, like if I have a management team of 10 people, will give me the AI instead of going and speaking with each and every one of my data by myself. Why do I need the AI to help me better manage my team?
Perfect question. I think there are few points to make here. There's nothing I would say, and I'm doing AI. I still advocate for personal connection and face-to-face meetings and open, transparent communication. There's nothing that can replace it. That said, 1 people or 50 people, how easy or difficult is it to maintain this close relationship with them? And in that case, let AI help you understand who needs the more attention now. Where are the more burning topics now that you probably should address? Right? So, as I said, it becomes, in my view, a co-pilot or something that enhances the visibility and drives that personal connection.
So we actually, I think, use the AI tools in order to scale, like in big companies, big cultures, that we can reach each and every one and really have all the data. We use the data in order to know how to navigate within our company, within our teams. And still, as we said before, I think it's really important to use this quantitative data and not to forget the qualitative data, meaning to be able as leaders to listen to our employees, even to reflect them. This is what I got in the chart. What do you think about it? To confront them with the data, maybe sometimes it will bring different wisdom to us than we thought about it. Maybe we can take it to another thought and they say, no, this is not the reason this chart looks like this. This is another option.
And I'll stop sharing for a second because this is a very good example. And in one case, working with one of our customers, we showed them there is a big workload in a specific area of the business, right? And we were afraid in a way that people are burning out because the data shows that there is an excessive workload in a specific division or business unit. This is the quantitative data, but when you go and speak to these people, it was just a super interesting project that everybody loved working on and were handpicked for this project. And while the data showed excessive workload that could potentially lead to burnout, those people were highly motivated, highly engaged, highly working and putting all that hard work. They were motivated and interested by it. So this is an example of the combination of qualitative and quantitative together.
Yes, a great example, because if you look only at the chart, you can think differently and create different behaviors that are not aligned with the motivation and the culture of the company. So it's really, I think it's really important to say that we need to combine the quantitative with the quality, because quality bonds.
Exactly.
Great example, thanks, Eitan.
Good. So if we want to summarize this first part before jumping into a few more of these, the main takeaways, Keren.
So as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, this AI tools that you create actually different needs. We can see different interaction within company and between companies and between teams, right? So it created differentiation between groups.
Yes. Different groups, they have different needs, and new hires versus high tenure, junior positions, sales versus marketing versus R&D or support or whatever. Definitely. And this is where the power of AI comes, because you can have the analysis done on a very specific, personalized, customized unit.
Right. Another great thing that you can learn from the AI, it's really a reflection of the company, of the culture. You can really learn a lot about the culture of the company. What are the tendency? What are the frequency that people with interaction? And we see that it really varies between companies, and it actually a reflection of the culture. So I think it's great, even when you get into a company through this data.
Correct. And it becomes even more interesting when even though you have the company culture behaviors between teams and starting to see abnormal behavior, whether high or low than the benchmark, and starting to compare leadership behavior within the company.
So even within the company, you can have different leadership behavior, and that will be okay, because people need different things, right? Different division need different things and need different behaviors. And I think we talked about it, and we do want to say it again, that we need to take into account the quantitative versus the quality. The quality is the scale, information and data that we get through the AI, but we need not to forget the human skills, right? The ability to really listen to our employees, to our colleagues, to our customers, to really be mindful is needed right now. and to really understand the cause root of things that we see in the data, because sometimes it can be confusing and we can use it in a different way in order to, not in the right way that we want to, in the right way to achieve the goals. And the last thing that we say is the talent management, right? Because it's really a great tool to understand where our employees are on the life cycle, and to understand where they're struggling and to help them there in order to really give them tools, attentions, and whatever they need in order to maintain and retain them. And this is actually the most challenging part for companies nowadays, to maintain, not recruit the employees, but also to maintain them.
Retain. Agreed. And let's see if we have questions. Monica, Jennifer, if you on this first part before we move on. Good. So the first part was looking
Just
at
a minute, I think Monica asked. Let's see what she has.
Yeah, I missed it.
All three for me, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Monica.
So let's move with some more findings and more patterns revealed by looking at data. And the next one, it's a topic that has been in the news. We all moved, or many of us moved to work remotely. And there was a company, I think it was Shopify, not too long ago, that tried to quantify time that we spend in meetings, how much does it cost to a company, right? But beyond the direct cost, the dollar sign attached to it, there are also that it's important to understand the employee life cycle for sure. Different analysis, different stages requires different analysis, and it's important to pay attention to that. Now, if I go back to the meetings, another of these first maybe scary charts that shows the correlation between, again, the high and low risk to the hours that people spend in meetings per week. So this is an average, right? And clearly there's another pattern that emerged here, this U-shaped curve that shows us that people in this particular company, 7 to 11 hours per week in meetings, the chances of them leaving it is low, much more minimized. And if you look at the people who work and don't really know their colleagues, meetings are close to zero, we can assume that the lack of personal, and on the other hand, people have hours per week could be very much spending meetings, and the risk also increases. And now, not only to think about helping companies get into multiple green zones, right? Optimizing the experience of their employees and managers, of course.
Eitan, can I refer to a point here when you're? Of
course.
So I think it's, again, I'm going back to the quantity versus the quality, because I think here you bring the quality, okay? So we know how many hours, so we can handle it. But at the end of the day, the quantitative abilities are not less important, because at the end of the day, you see the data, but as a manager, I need to decide which meeting I need to be there, and which meeting I'm redundant. Which meeting I'm coming only for my ego, to the people will see me, or I really need to be there. And which meeting I can tell my employees to be there, delegate it to them. So there's a lot of mindfulness and consciousness that needed to be in this process in order to really manage our time rightly, and to create a situation that people are really going to the right meetings and not wasting the time. Because, as someone that consulted and work with a lot of companies, there's something that occurs in all organizations. That people are saying, leaders are saying, managers, individuals are saying that they are too much spending time in meetings. So it's a real problem, right? So I think we really need to invest also the data. And I understand that it also differentiate between divisions and in the company, but at the same time, it doesn't take the accountability of the managers and executives
Exactly.
put boundaries, really be reflective about why are they going to the meetings, what are motivations, and maybe they're not the right motivation, and to let go of some of the meetings. And some of the meetings can be canceled. So there's a lot of doing after the scene, the data. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it touches two important points. One is efficiency and productivity, right? Kind of the top level, the technical. And two, how are my people feeling? Very easy to put a recurring meeting every week, 1 hour, because I want to see everyone as a manager. But is it really what's helping my people right now? Is it really what they're needed? Better for them to be focused and have some quiet time, right? I think it's another in-your-face kind of data chart that shows us that we need to be more mindful about our meeting patterns, about the meetings that I'm attending together with my employees, or as you said, can I delegate that? Another tool to help us better manage and hopefully find the ways to make something that our people will feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, then I can feel comfortable coming to my manager and telling them, look, I'm not going to this meeting because I don't have any time for it. It's a waste of time and it's beyond my optimal range time. So
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
you can use it, you know, today putting boundaries. I think it's most challenging for a lot of people.
Exactly. It will take ownership to some extent of our time and manage it properly. And then, of course, as you said, mindful leadership is to be more sensitive to their people's time.
Yeah.
The main takeaways from this one is that the balance between isolation and social connection, right? Very much on the left side, zero connections, probably worth looking into and trying to push them to increase their internal network, as opposed to those that are too much time in meetings, risk of burning out, risk of, frustrating because of a lot of time wasted. And so like everything in life, it's of balance.
And I think it's a great point, because at the end of the day, meeting is a functional thing, but at the end of the day, it's not only functional. We can see that also the rapport, the connection with the people is also an important component. So it's not only the functional, but the emotional. So we see again, it's both functional, both emotional. Then it creates a bond with other people, and the feeling of being part of something that is bigger than me. Epiphany for me, because meeting usually we can see that it's beyond the functionality. We can see that people get more than it.
Yeah. If I go back to how AI can help us be better leaders, the balance here gets specific definition: 7 to 11 hours per week. That's the balance for this particular company or team, right? Every company would have their own, but micromanagers in this example with 3 to 7 times a week. So we're now able to quantify and get a very defined, I would say, range of what does it mean to be a micromanager, what is the balance between isolation and social connection. We can really put numbers.
It really gives you a broader perspective, right? And you can map different behaviors based on. Interesting.
With over a decade, you will always hear me say that AI still cannot replace that human touch. And we see it on those on the left side, that their network, they don't stick long. The last one I would offer our customer case is the importance of differentiating between the actual root cause and that we see on the surface. We found out in one of our cases that in a specific team, it was customer success team, about that particular team was very different than the rest of the company, because 45% of their meetings was with people, with 8 or more people. 8 or more is always participating in this. And when the customers saw that 45% time spent in multiple participant meetings, she immediately linked that to the exit interviews. Always said that they feel like trusted. So that was the symptom in this case. People reporting in exit interviews that they feel like they're not being trusted. When you looked at their data, you could see that it was always present in those. If my manager here, he'll be calling the shots, they would be where I have no mandate or no responsibility to make the calls. And so while the symptom was exit interviews, the root cause was actually uncovered when we looked in the data.
I'm confused. What do you say that the symptom was a lot of the people attending the meeting, and the root cause was that people not trusted, not being trusted?
I would say that no, the symptom, the information that it was in this case, it was the CHRO. The CHRO of that company times in exit interviews that people feel like they're not being trusted. And this is when we looked at the data of the customer success team, we could understand why. Partially, we could correlate it to being in these meetings all the time. So people are not let go to make their own decisions, to make their own calls, right? If my manager is with me in every meeting that I have,
so actually from this AI tools, we can learn patterns from the meetings, not only who attended how many meetings, but which patterns are positive and are having a negative effect, and to understand what's the root cause of the negative effect in order to change and to create better.
Yeah. And here things, one, of data from multiple sources like employee survey, and the behavioral data that we capture becomes more powerful. And two, we looking at it goes back to the quantity versus it's very hard to label something as negative or positive, right? Because as I said, with quality data, with quantity alone, with data alone, it requires this conversation, more active listening. I would label it good or bad. What will show us, and AI will show us, is where are the anomalies, or where is something happening that wasn't there before. How is one team is very different than those other compared. So it only focuses us as leaders. We should probably start speaking with the people more and listening to them.
We have dialogue, to create dialogue with the employees. It's say without going. It's not instead of the data, but it's alongside the data. We need
exactly. The second bullet, trust in AI to perfect or enhance your relationships. Yep. Good. So we're moving along, Keren, to the left. Again, if there are any questions from the audience, feel free to share them over the chat box. I think one of the transitions of working from home and working remote is kind of the difference between work and life became very blurred in many ways. We completed this research was that I was never, or let's put it this way, I was over a weekend. It's your time. Me as a leader, I would rarely text them or send them a weekend just because I didn't want them to work. And when we looked at this data, which shows us the correlation and flight risk pattern, it really showed us that people which are active about 30% of their time off, it doesn't need to be too much, but it's not too little too. It's significant enough, I would say, level of activity. These are the people that have the lower risk of leaving because of working beyond business hours, which for me was surprising. And again, I always push my people not to do anything over the weekend with their families.
So it's interesting. It actually changed our paradigm and perspective, right? Because we really rigid about not balance, work-life balance, and we see that there's not. I know that the balance word doesn't exist anymore. We talk more about integration, right? Finding the right integration, because sometimes we are more invested in our work, and some because there's more pressure, and sometimes there are more relaxing times, and we can put our attention more at home. So it's finding the right integration. And beyond it, when we talked about it, also what comes to my mind is actually when people are really loving what they're doing, they're really motivated and they're really passionate about it. So if there's something, a problem solving that they need to do right now, they will want to go all in now. They won't say, okay, it's Friday, so I can think about it. We continuously thinking about it, right? So it's part of our personality. It's part of ourselves because we're really engaged. So I think this is actually the new workplaces, because the Y generation, the Z generation are looking for really to do an impact, have an impact on the world, to do what they really is meaningful for them, to be motivated from intrinsic motivation, but not because of the paycheck at the end of the day. And this, I think it's a great reflection of it, because you see that people are engaged and want to do it because they're enjoying it, not because they need it, they think about the paycheck at the end of the month. So I think it's a really a change of perspective and paradigm now. See that we do need to find this flexibility. And as you said, as a manager, you really reach it from a good place. You wanted to save your employees, but at the end of the day, it's changed, and it's different people, employees nowadays, I think.
I told them don't do anything over the weekend. I stopped them from doing something that they care about, that they wanted to do. Now, it could be intrinsic motivation because it's highly in for me, I want to do more. Or it could even be more simple than that. You know what? I just want to balance out a bit and start off the next week with a clean calendar and email. So I'll spend an hour over Saturday or Sunday just cleaning my inbox. It's good for me. Mm-hmm. And myself as a manager, I stop my people from doing it.
And I think it's a really crucial thing in the leadership now that we really need to give to each and every one to take ownership on the way he wants to manage it and the relationship and the work. And this is crucial because there's not one right way. As leaders, we need to give the boundaries, but create the space for each and everyone to master his own time, his way he wants to achieve it, and also only look at the results, the outcomes, not the way he achieves it. So really great insights from this data we can incorporate in the day-to-day.
Yeah. And what was even more interesting here, Keren, is that, you can say that people that do not invest anything beyond what they're needed, it could be that they care about the company, they care about the cause or what the business is doing. They're working weekend are probably also potentially burning out. But when you look at this over time, if you see a team or division, or again, even if it's an individual that is deep within the green zone, but that team slowly starts migrating out and starting to be less and less engaged over time off, this becomes a strong indication of management.
Mm-hmm. And create this dialogue with the team, right? Asking what's happening right now, what we need to do, what we need to change, what's not working. Great indicator to pause and create this dialogue and connection with our employees in order to see what we need to navigate and change.
Exactly. And again, another example of how looking at data, real-time AI is potentially affecting us all as leaders and employees. So if you will look at this work beyond business hours, you touched it nicely, Keren. So I'll hand it over to you to summarize this.
So it's actually what we say, that looking at this data, we can see that it's not only, it's also connected to intrinsic motivation. If people are working beyond hours, maybe they want to. I think, again, as managers, we need to really speak with them and to communicate with them and understand their motivation. If they are doing it from the right reason, let them do it. If not, so we need to find the right solution and act differently. I think we can see that people like to master their own time and manage their workflow. Let them do it. It's important. And again, for the right reasons. If it's only to please and to see that the manager will see that I'm working hard, this is not the right motivation, right, Eitan? So we need to understand what the right motivation. And as we said in the beginning, there's not actually a right balance. I think the right word is integration. Finding the right integration. And I think we saw it along the 3 slides, the 3 themes, that at the end of the day, as conscious leadership, as conscious leaders, we need to find this integration, this presence within ourselves. And at the end of the day, it's kind of a tensions between 2 components, and always find the right balance at the specific time, and it changes. But the extreme ends, actually, from the data we see, it's not a good position to be in, right? Because it creates high risk of living, a lot of frustration. So I think the balance and the integration is the right place to be. But again, from listening deeply, from connecting, from speaking with our employees and navigating the right solutions.
Yeah, and the last point around agility.
It's actually, as we can see, we need to be agile. Like Eitan said, as a manager, I thought it's the right thing to do to tell them, but now we see that it's changing. And I thought we are living in a transformative times, and it started with the coronavirus transformation, but it changes continuously. And as leaders, we need to keep this flexibility mindset in order to be to find the right and accurate solutions for our customers, for our company. It's a crucial element.
And again, data insights from the data are innate or help more agile, more customized, more personalized, of course. Good. So we're coming to an end, Keren, and we've put together a list of these 4 bullet points. So human-centric approach, adaptability, and learning. And Keren, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went through the human-centric approach down to adaptability and learning.
So adaptability and learning, I think we talked about it. We need to maintain growth mindset, to be open to new data and really come from a beginner's mind and to look at this data and ask ourselves, what are the root causes of this data? And not assume in advance what are the root causes. So continuously learning and exploring, I think it's a crucial element for leaders nowadays.
And I think if you look at leadership training, right, many cases what you will find is that there is this annual leadership training or gathering, which is super important. It's for a large group of people. It happens once a year or so. So in a way, it's like going to the gym once a year and expecting to get in shape. Mm-hmm. With the data insights and what we've seen here, we can add those micro trainings and micro learnings, which are very customized for each and every manager, because one manager needs or growth needs are than another leader needs. So we can be very customized and personalized, like Netflix is doing to all of us. Netflix is learning our viewing habits and are recommending the right content for us that they think will be good. We can do the same with leadership training.
The point is collaborative leadership. I see leadership nowadays is a social process, right? It's not one leader that can have all the wisdom. The wisdom occurs within the crowd. And now we can really use this data in order to explore and learn and navigate our companies and products and services to the right place. What do you think about it, Eitan?
Oh, definitely a very crucial topic. As we said, the AI is there to enhance our human skills and leadership skills, not to replace.
Exactly. And from my experience, I think the last bullet is the most crucial one, is the ability to have transparent communication. Being able to be vulnerable, to say that I don't understand the data, that I don't have all the answers, to hold this space of uncertainty and exploring using this data, we enable new wisdom and knowledge and creative solution to emerge. Otherwise, it can be have a negative impact if we won't have courage to be human and to communicate and even to be in conflict with our colleagues. That's fine, that's great, because from this confrontation, something new will emerge and not be attached to the data. Okay, this is the data I got, so I'm going blindfolded with this data. This is not the right way to.
100%, and this brings the end of the time and the bottom conclusion, like you said, or belief that with all the advancements in AI, it's still up to us.
So we can't retire yet, right?
No.
Not yet.
No, a lot of responsibility. With that, Keren, thank you for engaged conversation here, and I hope it will be better viewers. Thank you to those who join and for those who will watch recording.
Thank you, Eitan, very much.
Thank you all.